If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you, as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. We're going to be chatting with him a little bit about what we've seen here in the first few weeks of the season. We're going to be taking a bit of a look forward as to what we are going to be getting on Monday, and additionally, we are going to be chatting with him as well about some of the things that he looks at in baseball this time of year, some of the big handicapping angles that he finds to be very profitable, as I know that he does a little bit of everything in terms of sides, totals, player props, so we're going to be breaking that all down and so much more with Rob in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have 1 or 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @Junit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated, and then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but we do have everything brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost is making sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 on leap years, 366 days out of the year, because it's nothing that runs on credit or anything like that. It's just an account that allows bettors to be able to access their funds 24/7 and earn cashback rewards as they utilize Edge Boost. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, Greg, your first $25 deposit, that is going to be matched dollar for dollar. That's over at edgeboost.bet, promo code GREG. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Sunday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
How about 24-2 for the Cincinnati Reds? They absolutely pummeled the Baltimore Orioles here, as Charlie Morton, he might be needing to find a retirement home sometime soon, because, man, this was not great from him. From Mr. Morton, 7 runs that he got, 7 outs that he gave up a home run, and the Reds really didn't hit the deep ball much in this game. They had 3 total home runs. Ellie De La Cruz, his 5th home run of the campaign, that's off of Morton, and then you had Jorge Mateo, the backup, I guess you call it position player, off of Neovoli Marte. Neovoli Marte gets his first home run of the season, and Austin Wynns, who had 6 hits in this game, he goes deep for home run number 2 of the season. That comes off of Mr. Sanchez, as you know that things are bad when Gary Sanchez is pitching. He gave up 4 runs in an inning. Mateo, he gave up 5 runs in his inning. Xiano Perez gives up 3 runs in 2 innings. He had the best performance of anyone that came into this game, as Cody Poteet. He also gave up 5 runs in 2 2/3 innings, and Adley Rutschman does go deep off of the young gun and Randall Wine. He was making, I believe, his MLB debut at the age of 32. He does give up that home run, 1 run in total over the course of 3 innings, and Brent Suter, he was the opener in this game, unearned run, give it up in 3 innings of work. Ian Gabo, Taylor Rogers, Scott Barlow, all under scoreless innings. So a pretty successful bullpen game for the Cincinnati Reds, a pretty successful day for the Chicago White Sox as well. They don't get too many wins, and this is number 5 of the season, 3 of which have come against the Boston Red Sox, by the way. 8-4 the final, as you had a pair of home runs in this one. Tanner Houck gives one up to Matt Thayes, his first of the campaign, and Andrew Vaughn gets his 3rd of the season. That comes off of Liam Hendricks, and Hendricks, he's battled a lot, hasn't looked too effective since coming back. 2 runs allowed in his inning. He gives up a home run along the way. Tanner Houck, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to Thayes, and then from there you had Zach Kelly give up 3 runs, and he did not get a single out of the bullpen. Justin Wilson, a scoreless inning, and Brendan Bernardino gives up an unearned run in his inning of work. You did have Weiler out. He gets his 4th home run on the campaign. That comes off of Sean Burke for Burke. Gives out that home run. 4 runs in total, but only 1 of which was earned. He had a pair of errors out there in the field that hurt him along the way, but the bullpen from there was pretty rock solid. Steven Wilson, Brandon Eisert, they combine for 3 scoreless innings, and Cam Bouger, he's able to lend a scoreless inning. The Atlanta Braves get a sweep. They take down the Minnesota Twins by a count of 6-2, and the Twins now 7-15 thus far this season, as Byron Buxton goes deep off of Angel de los Santos, his 4th home run of the campaign, but Joe Ryan, who's always had the propensity to give up home runs away from home, he did so once again here. 6 runs allowed in 5 innings. He gives up 3 bombs as Marcell Ozuna gets his 4th of the campaign. You had home run number 3 for Matt Olson of the season. Then it was the 2nd home run of the campaign for Drake Baldwin, while on the Atlanta Braves side of things, Grant Holmes, solid start, 1 run allowed in 5 1/3 innings. De Los Santos does give up that solo home run in his 1 1/3 innings, and Pierce Johnson, 2 scoreless innings. And for Minnesota, Louis Varland, Danny Kalum, Yohan Duran, they're all able to line a scoreless inning. The Cleveland Guardians find a way to get the job done in extras against the Pittsburgh Pirates. This by a count of 5-4, as Logan Allen gives up 1 run over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Emmanuel Clase with a Master Clase disaster. He gives up 3 runs over the course of an inning, and he, for some reason, gets the win, which I always think that that's a cheap rule. But that said, Paul Sewald gets it out of the bullpen squirrels. Hunter Gaddis, Jacob Junis, Joey Cantillo, they all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Cleveland Guardians, pair of home runs in this one. Kyle Manzardo, he goes deep off of Joey Wentz for his 6th home run season, as that one went very far. And Stephen Kwan, 4th home run season, that comes off of Mitch Keller. Keller, the starter, gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Wentz gives up 2 runs in his inning of work, including that bomb. But you did have Chase Shogert lend 2 scoreless innings, Justin Lawrence a scoreless inning, and then Dennis Santana gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning as Kyle Manzardo hits a sacrifice fly to be able to lift the Cleveland Guardians to victory. Right now, the top over team in all of baseball is the Baltimore Orioles, but the second best over team, that would actually be the Miami Marlins. And as north of plus 250 underdogs, they take down the Philadelphia Phillies by a count of 7-5, as Connor Gillespie does give up 4 runs in 5 innings, but bullpen from there held down the fort. Anthony Bender does give up a run in 2/3 of an inning of work, but Cade Gibson in his MLB debut, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Kelvin Fauché, Jesus Tinoco does not get Tinoco to round. They both lend a scoreless inning. And for the Miami Marlins, you did have a home run in this one, number 1 of the season for Mr. Javier Senjoa. Hopefully I said that correctly. That's an interesting last name, as he goes deep off of Orion Kirkering, who gives up 3 runs in an inning. Uncharacteristically bad appearance out of him. Jesus Luzardo continues to be rock solid. 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 7 innings. Jose Alvarado, a scoreless inning, but Matt Strahm gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in the 10th inning for Miami to be able to lift themselves up to victory. Being able to be uplifted to victory in Sunday Night Baseball, the Slam Diego Padres, 3-2 is a final, and for the Padres now 16-6 to begin the season. And for the Padres, don't look now, but right now they find themselves a half a game up on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Obviously still very, very early in terms of that divisional race, but for the Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr. lifted the team to victory at a triple, and the game-separating home run in the 7th inning, his 8th home run in the campaign. That comes off of Taylor Scott, who gave up that home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Farmer Valdez, solid start, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. And on the flip side for Slam Diego, not a ton of length, but Dylan Cease only allows 2 runs in his 5 innings of work. From there for the Padres, Jason Adam, Alec Jacob combined for 3 scoreless innings of work, and Robert Suarez is able to pitch a scoreless inning to be able to get the job done there. Meanwhile, for the Astros, you also had Brian King, Steven Okert lend a scoreless inning, and you had an out of the bullpen from Logan Van Way. You had a lot of scoreless innings out there in the Colorado Rockies and Washington Nationals double dip, as game number 2 went the way of the Colorado Rockies. They'll lift them up to 4-17. That is the worst mark in baseball, and boy, this is not looking good for them. 3-1 the final, as Brad Lord, oh Lord, he wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. 2 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. Colin Boucher, a scoreless inning. Jackson Rutledge, 2 scoreless innings. You did have Eduardo Salazar give up a run in a 1/3 of an inning of work before Jorge Lopez gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. But for Colorado, Antonio Senzatella, relatively solid start, 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Jake Bird, along Tyler Kinley, lend a scoreless inning, and Zachary Agnos, he makes his MLB debut. He's able to throw a scoreless inning, and the Nationals in game number 1, they did get the job done by a count of 3-2. So, yet in these 2 games, they combined 9 runs, which would have went under the single game total of either of these games, so not a lot of scoring in these games. But that said, for Jake Irvin, does allow a pair of solo home runs in 6 1/3 innings, as Zach Veen gets his first home run of the season. And how about home run number 1 of the season, and I believe the career of Braxton Fulford. So congratulations to them. And from there for the Washington Nationals, Kyle Finnegan, a scoreless inning to be able to get the save, and Jose Ferrer, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless for the Colorado Rockies. And Kyle Freeland give up 3 runs, 1 of which was earned in 2 innings. Lifted very early in this game, but bullpen honestly did a great job. Anel Shavili, 3 scoreless innings. Jimmy Hargett, 2 scoreless innings. Scott Alexander, Seth Halverson, they combined for 2 scoreless innings, but nothing doing offensively for either team on this day. not a lot doing for the Texas Rangers either. Absolutely nothing doing, as a matter of fact. 1-0, the Texas Rangers lose the LA Dodgers, so that's a 5th one-run win of the season for the LA Dodgers, uncharacteristic of them. And for Tyler Glasnow, uncharacteristically only goes 4 innings, so kept it scoreless. I believe that he left just due to precaution, but that said, Luis Garcia, Anthony Banda, they both give you 2/3 of an inning scoreless. Ben Casparis, he was able to give 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Jack Dreyer, Evan Phillips, they combine for a scoreless inning, and Tanner Scott is able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Texas Rangers, Tyler Mahle was great. 7 scoreless innings from him. You have Chris Martin give up a run in an inning. Colby Milner, a scoreless inning. The pitching did more than enough to get the Texas Rangers a win. Problem is, the offense did nothing whatsoever. And for Texas, 7 overs of 15 unders. They and the New York Mets have the highest underrated in all of baseball, and that's because the Mets played an over on Sunday. They take it to the St. Louis Cardinals by a count of 7-4. As for Sonny Gray, well, it wasn't sunny, but I wouldn't say it was cloudy. 3 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. He does allow a home run to Francisco Lindor, his 3rd home run of the campaign. From there, you had Ryan Fernandez give up 3 runs in an inning. Jojo Romero gives up a run in a 3rd of an inning, and Phil Matone, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. And for the Metropolitans, you had Clay Holmes give a good start in this one, gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings. Danny Young does give up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning, but Jose Buto, far outside the bullpen scoreless, and Ryan Stanek does give up a run in an inning, but team is able to find a way to get the job done. Royals have also been a very good under team, as they're at 8 overs, 14 unders, and a push, and as a big plus money underdog, they take it to the Detroit Tigers on Scooble Day. 4-3 the final streak. Scooble gives up 2 runs, but only lasts 5 innings, so a little bit of an uncharacteristically short start out of him. Brent Herter from there, he gives up nothing in his 2 innings of work. Tommy Kahnle, he gives up an unearned run in his inning of work. Javi Baez had a throwing error that cost him, and then Tyler Holton, he gives up an unearned run in the 10th inning as Bobby Witt Jr. hits a sacrifice fly to be the difference maker. And for the Royals, Michael Wacha, pretty solid start. 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 1/3 innings. No dying Pac-Man voice for him. John Schreiber, 5 outs out the bullpen scoreless. Daniel Lynch gives up a run in that inning, but Carlos Estevez, he pitches a scoreless 9th and 10th inning for the team to be able to get to the window. And also being able to get to the window, how about the Seattle Mariners, as they're able to get a nice 8-3 win over the Toronto Blue Jays. For Seattle, Luis Castillo, not necessarily his best work. He gives up 10 hits in 5 innings, including 3 runs, but bullpen has his back. Colin Sider, Gabe Speier, Trent Thornton, Casey Lugumina, they all lend a scoreless inning. And for the Seattle Mariners, a nice display of power in this one, as Cal Raleigh, big dumper goes deep off of Easton Lucas, 9th home run of the season. You had Dylan Moore give you more, 5th home run of the season for him. And Rowdy Tellez, he's able to go deep. That's home run number 4 of the campaign. That comes off of Dylan Tatu. He allows that home run, 2 runs in total in 1 1/3 innings. And Easton Lucas was out long for this game. He got 5 outs and he gave up 6 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of bombs. Now, some good long relief from Paxton Schultz. MLB debut, 4 1/3 innings scoreless, and Mason Fluharty was able to give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. But for the Blue Jays, even though they go 5 of 21 with men in scoring position, they leave 12 men on base, so they had their chances. They weren't able to execute, and the pitching in this game, well, wasn't great to say the least. For the Milwaukee Brewers, the offense was great in this game. 14-1, they completely smoked the Sacramento A's. As for Jeffrey Springs, well, he was sprung from this game early. He got 7 outs and he gave up 6 runs, 4 of which were earned, including a bomb. As going deep for the Milwaukee Brewers, Rhys Hoskins, 3rd home run of the season. For the Brewers, 9 stolen bases in this game. That is a franchise record for them. Meanwhile, Mitch Spence gives up 2 runs in 2 2/3 innings. Noah Murdoch gives up 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning. TJ McFarland, he gives up a run in an inning. And Jacob Lopez, he comes in, he's able to lend 1 1/3 inning scoreless. And he did have a home run in this game from Seth Brown, 1st home run in the campaign. That comes off of the surprise starter in this game, Logan Henderson, MLB debut, very rock solid. Gives up that solo home run over the course of 6 innings and had 9 punch-outs. From there, Tyler Alexander comes in for the 3-inning save. He was supposed to be the starter to start out with in this one, but then he goes to the bullpen and he looked very solid. 3 scoreless innings out of him. The Diamondbacks and the Cubs had a game that lasted nearly 5 hours due to rain delays, but in the end, the Arizona Diamondbacks find a way to be able to get a 3-2 win. And for the Diamondbacks, Merrill Kelly, rock solid in this one. 1 run allowed over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Ryan Thompson was able to score a scoreless inning. You had Joby Miller give up an unearned run in his 2 innings of work, but you had Dre Jamison be able to give you a scoreless inning. Jalen Beeks, 1 1/3 inning scoreless of his own. And for the Chicago Cubs, Jameson Ion, rock solid here. 5 innings, gives up 1 run. From there, Julian Merriweather, Evan Roberts, Porter Hoge, lend a scoreless inning along with Ryan Presley. Jordan Wicks has to pitch the 10th and the 11th inning, gives up an unearned run in both the 10th and the 11th inning on pretty much sacrifices. So that's the way that the Arizona Diamondbacks find a way to be able to get the job done. And also being able to get the job done, the New York Yankees, 4-0. They're able to take it to the Tampa Bay Rays. For the Rays, just absolutely nothing doing in this game, as Mad Max Fried, 7 2/3 innings scoreless. Fernando Cruz gets the final 4 outs of the game scoreless. And for the New York Yankees, Cody Bellinger has been rough thus far this season. Goes deep off of Ryan Pepiot, his 2nd home run of the campaign. Trent Grisham, 6th home run season, also off of Pepiot, and then Garrett Clevenger gives one up to Austin Wells. Wells hits that one. Wells, for his 4th home run campaign for Clevenger, gives up that home run in his inning of work. You did have 2 scoreless innings out of Eric Orizzi, and then you had Ryan Pepiot give up 3 runs in 6 innings, including those 2 bombs, but for the Tampa Bay Rays, just 2 hits in total in this one, so left a lot to be desired at the plate there. And for the San Francisco Giants bullpen, they left a lot to be desired as well, as they took into the 9th inning a 4-1 lead against the LA Angels, and then they made like your buddy at the bar and could not close. 5-4, the LA Angels are able to rally as Justin Verlander, a really good start in this one, does give up a home run to Zach Neto, first home run season, but that's a lone run that he gives up in 6 innings. Camilo Udval, along with Taylor Rogers, lend a scoreless inning, but then Ryan Walker gives up 4 runs and gets just 1 out in the 9th inning. Joe Adell sets fire to the rain, basic clearing double to be able to close up the game with a W, and then he did have home run number 1 of the season for the Giants from Sam Huff. He was able to huff and puff and blow the house down of Barack and Roberk, who gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. You say Kikuchi? I say he had a pretty good start. Now, he did give up 4 walks in 5 1/3 innings that knocked him out early, but gave up nothing other than an unearned run along the way. Ian Anderson, he goes 1 1/3 innings. He gives up 1 run, and then he did have 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless from Michael Darrell Hicks, but for the Angels, it was enough for them to be able to get the win, and that was another over for the Giants. Now, 14 overs to 7 unders thus far this season for them. And if you're taking a look at what we're getting trend-wise in Major League Baseball, we have been seeing over the last 7 days a few more unders than overs. 45 unders to 43 overs, but the money line favorites have been really reigning supreme. 61 and 32 are money line favorites. That's 65.6%. Meanwhile, if you're looking overall for the season, favorites are hitting at 201 to 125, so that's a 61.7% hit rate to the favorites on the money line. Meanwhile, unders hitting at a little bit over 51%, 157 unders to 150 overs. So that's what we've seen in Major League Baseball on Sunday and Easter Sunday, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, let's talk with our good friend Rob Donaldson about what he's taking a look at for Monday, how he's playing a lot of these props, what he's made out the first few weeks of the season, and so much more right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Decent Family Podcast.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Decent Family Podcast, and it's always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Rob Donaldson aboard, as he does a tremendous job with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets, taking a look at all that we are getting in this great game of baseball. I know that he is doing an absolutely amazing job making sure that we are all set on that front, and additionally, I know that Rob, he is doing a great job with regards to keeping track of everything college basketball-wise here in the offseason, as he's joined me on that podcast a few times as well. For Rob on the old Twitter/X, you're able to follow him at RobDFB all together. And Rob, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. And certainly to your point, you know, Major League Baseball is on front and center, and also college basketball, keeping up with the craziness of the portal and coaching changes. But we're having fun right now. It's a really fun sport and a start to the season.
Yep, it certainly has been, Rob. And Rob, just out of the first 3+ weeks of the season, what have been some of the big takeaways for you thus far? Because I do think that it is oh so fascinating to see what we are all getting on this front. And I know you're a man that you do quite a bit more player props when it comes to baseball rather than college basketball. And you seem to be having great success, highlighted by the fact that we got, a trillion runs in that Friday game between the Cubs and the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I feel like that Cubs game at Wrigley, when, you know, you have an 11-13 type ball game, it just is an over kind of statement of how much weather plays a factor when you're talking about March and April, especially mid-April and early April, because you're going to have low temperatures some places, you're going to have 80s and 70s some places, and then you're also going to have ballparks like a Wrigley that are super affected by the wind to an abnormal degree. And yeah, I think that when you play a sport that's entirely outside, it's one of the few sports in this side of the world where you're actually playing outside for 90% of the time. I do feel like weather plays such a factor, and right now we're in the craziest time of year.
Oh, no doubt about it. And obviously, Wrigley Field is the ballpark that is affected most by the wind, because when the wind is blowing out, you get runs aplenty, and when the wind is blowing in, well, you typically don't get runs aplenty. But are there any other ballparks that you think might be a little bit under the radar with this? Because this is always something that I try to parse through, because obviously we all know that Wrigley Field totals, they don't go up in the AM for a lot of books until we do figure out the wind. But I do think that in terms of some of these other ballparks like Philadelphia, there can be some nice angles taking a look at that as well.
Oh, 100%. Philadelphia recently actually had like a 30-mile-per-hour wind day, and the ball was just getting absolutely slammed down. So a normally hitters-friendly ballpark turned into, a perfect game type territory for these starting pitchers. And Yankee Stadium is also kind of deceptively that same way, where, that short porch and right looks awfully inviting if you have a lot of lefties hitting the ball hard. But if you don't, and if you have rain or wind or cold temperatures, that can also be a ballpark that doesn't produce a lot of runs.
Yep, I think that that's such a good point that you bring up, because a lot of people think, oh, it's Yankee Stadium, that short porch and right field, it's a bandbox and everything like that. But when you take a look at the ballpark factors and the ballpark factors itself, it actually plays a little bit more pitcher friendly, and how much you try to play that to your advantage, because with the New York Yankees, when we think about them, we think about Aaron Judge, when healthy, Carlos Stanton, all those guys, and I think that some of the best totals that you can find are Yankees totals, because based on the way that the wind is playing, you can get some very, very easy overs, but there's a lot of people that they just default to the over, and when you do see a little bit of reversal, it causes such good value on those unders.
Oh, 100%. And when you're talking about a Yankees lineup where really there's only two guys that consistently get on base and don't just live by the boomer bust sort of narrative, right now it's Ben Rice and Paul Goldschmidt. And if one of those guys is out of the lineup, you're probably going to have a day that features a lot of solo home runs or a lot of kind of solo doubles that don't really drive anybody in. And if you are pairing that, say with I look at the starting rotation of Max Fried or Clark Schmidt, and, maybe some of these guys that they might end up getting back healthy, a Luis Gill or a Marcus Stroman, I do feel like those are really good under territories, despite the fact that the Yankees have this kind of Bronx Bombers narrative that surrounds the team.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I do think that that's something that is so important to be diving in on. As joining me on the show, we do have Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the Rob's Best Bet show, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I do think that we've got ourselves some intriguing teams to start out the season. And I want to talk about this team, because with the Atlanta Braves, as we know, it has been very much less than savory for them to start the season. When you start out 5-13, not great to say the least, facing off against a Minnesota Twins team over the weekend that may have been one of the bigger disappointments out there in the American League. How do you parse through a team like the Atlanta Braves, where you just feel like this is a team that is better than the record would indicate? But I feel like we said it all last year. The bats are going to be able to get going. This is going to be a fine offense, but we've now seen it for a sample size of nearly 180 games. They just haven't been able to get online.
Well, one of the big reasons I think that we've kind of had this weird characterization of the Braves is, they always have these young, talented stars that have one really great season and then deal with injuries, whether it's Ronald Acuna, going crazy in terms of the steals, the home runs, the average, just the clutch hitting overall, and then dealing with injuries in 2 of the last 3 seasons. That's kind of hurt them in terms of offensive production. And in terms of just kind of running through the rotation, obviously Spencer Strider last year wasn't even available at all. So it's kind of like the best faces in baseball might actually be within the organization of the Braves, but they really never play together. It's kind of what it feels like. And I do feel like with Acuna getting back healthy, with Ozuna being reintegrated into the lineup, with Matt Olson most likely going to be seeing some positive regression, and same with Austin Riley, I do feel like the Braves are in a really good buy-point territory. We saw it last year with the Astros. They were 10 games under 500 near the trade deadline before they ended up exploding and making the playoffs. I feel like the Braves are going to really follow in a similar path this season.
reinforcements I think are going to be very much needed with Ronald Acuna Jr., as you mentioned, coming back. I think that that's going to be massive for them, and just whatever they can get out of these guys like Spencer Schwellenbach. Now you've got Spencer Strider back as well. That really helps out as well. So I think that they're a very intriguing team, and the team that we saw them play over the weekend, the Minnesota Twins, what do you make out of them? Because that's a team that I just always have trust issues with because they're never ever going to be healthy with Royce Lewis, as we're doing this once again being on the injured list. If Byron Buxton hits a home run, look out because he might pull his hamstring rounding the bases. And I mean, that's just a bunch of, I don't know how you view it, but out there in that AL Central, that's the one team that I really wasn't overly bullish on coming into the season. And so far, not so good for them.
Yeah, and this is always the same story with the Twins is, where is the offensive firepower? Because they have the names in this lineup that could seemingly lead to a lot of nice things. I mean, Carlos Correa, Trevor Larnach, Ty France, Willie Castro, Byron Buxton, Edward Julian, and Matt Wallner, who, ended up just on the IL as well. It just kind of feels like every single time that they might find some rhythm or some positive regression, it's not the actual individual personnel that has issues. It's just the individual personnel actually staying healthy enough to showcase what their skill set actually is. And, if you want to talk about injuries, their rotation's obviously taking a hit with Pablo Lopez being out as well. And, to your point, I feel like this is one of those teams that when they are healthy, are mostly healthy, can really beat any single team in Major League Baseball, but over the course of entire 162, it's not a team I want to be back in. So it's almost like they're the ultimate wild card, which makes it a really hard betting proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a team that I don't know if I want to be investing too much in myself, so I'm right there with you. Joining me on the show, we do have Rob Donaldson, who does such great work over at the Rob's Best Bet Show, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then when it comes to what we are going to be getting this week in Major League Baseball, well, we do have ourselves some interesting games for Monday as well, as we saw the Red Sox trying to be able to get back for the Chicago White Sox after the White Sox actually took 2 of 3 from them last week. I know that you were mentioning Clark Schmidt a little bit before for the New York Yankees. He's going to be going on Monday as well. Just how do you take a look at things going into this week in Major League Baseball? Because I think that this is going to be a very critical week for a lot of pitchers that either started out hot and they've got these really good ERAs, and whether they're going to be able to maintain or if they're going to come back to earth. Because I remember we were both on a mutual fade in the last few days with Spencer Schwellenbach and that really low ERA, and then he just got sent straight back to earth in that start against the Blue Jays.
100%. I think in baseball more than any other sport, because of the volume of the games, you are going to see some serious positive regression, negative regression with certain players, and it happens really, really suddenly because 1 month out of the year is, a drop in the bucket comparatively to the entire season. It's not like 1 month in college basketball where, you're actually inserting yourself as a really nice player if you can go off for an entire month span. An entire month in baseball is just like, all right, well, let's see if you can replicate that 7 times over, because that's what we're going to need, and that's how you're going to actually solidify yourself as a legitimate player. And heck, a guy like a Rafi Devers, who started the season 0 for 24, ended up, hitting a lot of baseballs and getting it back up in terms of his average and the home run department and the RBIs, and now he's slumping again. So it's one of those things where I feel like you got to play the streaks in baseball. And to your point, there's a lot of pitchers right now who are kind of, either with high ERAs or low ERAs that should be going the opposite way. And I look at a guy like a Walker Buehler on Monday starting for the Red Sox. He's actually turned out a lot of really nice outings, except for one. And right now, that one terrible outing is sporting a 5 ERA for his entire season. So those are some of the things I would definitely be on the lookout moving forward.
And I think that is so important to be doing, because you can have one bad appearance, whether that be a starter or a relief piece. Like, you could have a reliever come in there in 8 appearances. He allows no runs in 7 of them, but gives up a 3-run homer in another one, and that just completely ruins his numbers. So very well said there, Rob. And I do think that we have ourselves a lot of intrigue coming up this week in terms of this front, and I do want to get your thoughts on this one as well. We're doing this without numbers. We're doing this a bit ahead of time, but I really like what I've seen out of Quinn Pricer for the Milwaukee Brewers, a guy that I felt like was called up a little bit too early to the big league level with the Pirates a few seasons ago. I thought that Pirates organization did him wrong, but now I think that he's in a good organization with the Brewers, going against a guy in Robbie Ray, who is 3-0, but man, I don't know if Robbie Ray knows where the ball is going to be going when he releases it from his hand. What do you make out of a situation like this? Because I could easily see this being like a 1-0, 2-0 game, but if Robbie Ray gets out of control, the Brewers could score 7 runs off of him as well.
Yeah, you're talking about a guy in Robbie Ray that, along with his grunts, really brings the show because, oh my goodness, he could be rolling for 4 innings and then almost in like Carlos Rodon-esque fashion, one bad thing happens and everything unravels. And, to your point, you brought up Quinn Preister. I actually been really impressed with him as well. He got tagged a little bit in Colorado in terms of hard hits, but that also kind of has to do with the altitude and the Colorado Rockies hitting well at home as opposed to on the road. And I do feel like when you're looking at the Brewers just in general over the past decade, it doesn't matter who the manager is. It doesn't even matter who the pitching coach is. This is just an organization that knows how to pitch. And if anybody can buy low on a guy like a Quinn Preister, who was an elite time prospect at one point in time, I do feel like the Milwaukee Brewers are a team to get the most out of that type of guy.
I'm right there with you. I do like what I'm seeing there. And then is there anything else that you're going to be taking a look at just moving forward, whether that be with player props? Maybe there's a guy or two that you've been feeling really warm about. Maybe there's a team or two that you're starting to back a little bit more. Anything else that's really standing out to you that you might be looking to extract some value on early on this week?
I am circling and starring and putting in bold letters Paul Goldschmidt because he is hitting the baseball pretty much better than anybody in Major League Baseball, in my opinion, right now. He's just not getting the home run balls. He's just barreling up everything, spraying it from left to center to right. He is getting on base. He is stealing bags. He is playing elite defense. He is looking like a true MVP. And I do feel like once the cold weather games are out of the equation, they've played in Pittsburgh, they've obviously played in New York Yankee Stadium, and there's a lot of like wind factors and rain factors that they've had to deal with in terms of their entire lineup. But once you get into those 60s, the 70s, the 80s, I feel like Paul Goldschmidt is going to have an outbreaking season at, whatever age he is right now. And I do feel like it's going to be very akin to when he won the MVP just a few seasons ago.
Yep, with Paul Goldschmidt, might not hit for as many home runs as he has in the past, but this guy's absolutely moving the line. Is that maybe a guy that you look at a little bit more with regards to hit runs and RBIs? Because that's a feel for me. I don't know if he's a guy that I want to gamble on to be able to get a home run consistently, but this guy just looks like he's once again having a great approach up there at the plate, and he's been doing an amazing job of just being able to find a way on and turn some of those home runs for the Yankees from solo shots into 2- and 3-run shots.
100%. And in particular with Paul Goldschmidt, something that you should be mindful of is his position in the lineup, because he's been hitting at the 7 spot, he's been hitting at the 5 spot, the 4 spot, and the 1 spot, the leadoff spot. And any given day, I feel like his approach does change, where some days when he's hitting in that 4 or 5, he's looking to hit more lofty bombs and kind of driving it to the outfield. And on the days when he's at the top of the lineup, he's just kind of looking to work counts, get on base any way he can, and move the line for an Aaron Judge behind him. I feel like that's something to really be mindful of, but 100% to your point, total bases, hits plus runs plus RBIs, I feel like he's going to be one of those darlings this season.
Oh, I think so as well. I've been loving what I've been seeing out of him with the New York Yankees, and I always love what I hear from you, Rob, because you do an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball. Like I said, you're doing a tremendous job on the college basketball front here in the offseason as well. So love to get people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, I always love hopping on, man. I thank you for having me on throughout the entire Major League Baseball season last season and even the start of it this year. And for those who are wanting to follow my bets in Major League Baseball, you can do so at Twitter/X at RobDFB, and also on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. But as always, Greg, I really appreciate having me on, man.
Always great to be able to get Rob aboard. A wealth of knowledge when it comes to baseball, college basketball, and so much more. And every single time he joins me, learns such great insights. So big thanks to Rob for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, We have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be able to get aboard our good friend Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GNet_D1, and we are going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with the first game on the board? This is 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are into Cincinnati. They're under the road. They're facing off against the Miami Marlins. Max Meyer is on the bump for the Fish, and Nick Lodolo is on the bump for the Reds. And the Reds, they do find themselves as anywhere between -122 to -135 favorites, and between +110 to +119. That number on Miami, 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 8. Under is between -105 to a -115. Same goes for the over, and on the 7.5, over is -120. The under is even. I set my total at 7.8. Personally, I would rather have the 7.5 over rather than the 8 under. Just very clearly, it's because the Miami Marlins are about 68% to the over at home since the beginning of the 2024 season. They don't have a very good bullpen, as you got the likes of Anthony Veziano, Anthony Bender are relatively okay, but George Soriano is a long guy. He has been very shaky, to say the least. For the Miami Marlins, they are posting up a bullpen ERA overall that is north of a 4.3, so that's a bit of an issue for them. Now, the Cincinnati Reds have been actually pretty rock solid with regards to bullpen, but they did have to burn through a few arms yesterday. The fact that they were able to win by a count of 24-2 yesterday meant that they were able to save some arms that they might not have been able to otherwise, so that was pretty rock solid for them. But for the Reds, I do feel like this team is starting to get online with their offense. That's what happens when you score 24 runs in a game, but it's not even like it was all about the deep ball yesterday either. Like, you've got Ellie De La Cruz, who's still giving you only about a 313 on base. You know that that's going to be going northward. Matt McLain has 3 home runs, but he's only been hitting right around about 200. You know that these guys are going to pick it up a little bit. It's the likes of a Neovaldi Marte, who had 5 hits yesterday, just rock solid there. Austin Wins, I don't think it's going to continue to hit a 455, but he's been good for the team as well. TJ Friedel is starting to give you a bit of something. Jake Fraley, I like the way that this lineup's coming together. And for the Miami Marlins, this is very much a station-to-station sort of team outside of Matt Mervis. Mervis has been able to give you 5+ home runs this season, but Xavier Edwards, he hit for a cycle last season against the Milwaukee Brewers. He's been able to give you about a 380 on base. Evan Wagaman has been able to move the line for you. Dane Myers is sitting above 300, and you now get Cronner and Norby off the injured list as well. So while you don't have a lot of power itself for the Miami Marlins, you do have quite a few guys. They're able to do a solid job being able to move the line. And for Max Meyer, he's a guy that I've liked at the minor league level, was never able to quite put it together at the major league level up until now, but in his 4 starts thus far this season, 263 ERA. Do you think that that's going to tick upward a little bit because of fielding independence? A 340, he has been able to get 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but giving up a little bit north of a home run per 9 innings. He's also giving up about 2.5 walks per 9 innings. And for Lodolo, he's been a little bit lucky for the Cincinnati Reds because his swing and miss stuff has been down a bit this year. I do think that that's going to be rebounding. I do think that it's just a matter of circumstance that strikeouts have been down, but 231 ERA, 401 fielding independent, only getting about 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Again, first 3 years at the big league level was averaging north of 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but walks are way down. He's only given up 2 walks across 4 starts in 23 and a third innings, doing an okay job of limiting contact, giving up 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. And with the Reds still having quite a few guys in the bullpen, like a Tony Santian that you're able to rely upon. Recognize that they had to use a bit of Taylor Rogers yesterday, but they should be able to mix and match in the bullpen. I do think the Lodolo gets a good start to be able to get the job done here. So did set my line at -126, willing to take that -122 on the Reds money line, and do like the over of 7.5, set my total at 7.8. 903 and 904 on the betting board. The New York Mets play us to the Philadelphia Phillies. Aaron Nola hopes to be super for the Phils, and Tyler McGill total is on the bump for the Mets. The Mets do find themselves as very slight favorites, and between minus 115 to a minus 122. Anywhere between even money to plus 107 is that number on the Phillies, and 8 is the total. The over and the under are both at minus 110, and for the Phillies, I did set them at a plus 124. I just am out on Aaron Nola. If you take a look at him since the beginning of the 2021 season, he's got an ERA that hovers right around about a 4 with 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Throughout his career, he's got an ERA that's nearly a full point higher when he's on the road rather than at home. This guy is treated like an ace by many people. I know that there are many that are coming around and seeing what I'm seeing, that he's not an ace, but he just isn't at this point. And for Tyler McGill, the 140 ERA is not going to be long lasting, but he's really been able to turn the corner as a pitcher. He's still giving up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but command is getting a little bit better. He's giving you north of 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's not given up a home run here in 19 and a third innings thus far this season. Length is still a little bit of an issue with him, but you've got Max Kranick, Jose Buto, two of the better long guys you're going to find in all of baseball in that bullpen. And additionally, this is a Mets bullpen that, even with Reed Garrett, Ryan Stanek not necessarily being the guys I necessarily love in this bullpen, they're a top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. They have been rock solid with that regard. And then for the Philadelphia Phillies, Matt Strahm, Orion Kerkering, Jose Alvarado, that trio is very good for that bullpen, but when it comes to what you're going to be able to get outside that in terms of the guys like Jordan Romano and company, that's a big giant roll that I says right now. 581 is that bullpen ERA. That is the second worst in all of baseball. I do think that they're a little bit better than that, no question about it, but still, you do have to have your issues there. You've been able to have Kyle Schwarber put together a really nice season for this team, as he's giving you north of 400 on base. He's been able to slug out 5+ home runs. Bryce Harper is starting to come around a little bit more with the power numbers, and he's continued to move the line for this team, and Trey Turner is now hitting at 270 along with Harper, so that's very encouraging. Offense feels like it's relatively fine outside of Alec Boehm, Max Kepler having some issues, but I do think that for the Mets, they're going to be able to find a little bit more offensively, as well as their offensive numbers at home a little bit dwarfed this season with the bad weather that we saw in New York in their first series or two of the season, and you should be able to get a little bit more out of Mark Vientos moving forward, who has been thus far this season giving you less than a 275 on base. The catcher spot has been shored up by Luis Torrens, doing a rock solid job finding way online. And for Francisco Lindor, after a rough start to the season, he goes deep yesterday. He's out hitting at 270 once again. Juan Soto's not hitting for a ton of power, but Pete Alonso, north of a 380 on base apiece, with Alonso being able to slug out those 5+ home runs, giving you a 450 on base. I do think that this is a Mets team that finds a way to get the job done. And again, Aaron Nola, I just believe, is a little bit overrated at this point. Semi-total at 88.1. I like the over, and I do like the Mets up to a minus 124 on that money line. 905, 906 on the betting board. The St. Louis Cardinals hit the road to face off against the Atlanta Braves. Spencer Schmellenbach is on the bump for the Bravos, and Eric Fetty-Wap goes for St. Louis. And St. Louis does find themselves as a underdog of anywhere between plus 160 to plus 165. Meanwhile, anywhere between minus 180 to minus 192. That number on Atlanta, 8.5 is the total. The over is anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 115. Unders between minus 105 to a minus 110. And for the Bravos, I set them at a minus 146. Being able to get north of a plus 150, I'm going to be willing to dive in on the Cardinals on the money line. Now for Eric Fetty, in starts not made in the city of Chicago because he was pitching for the White Sox at this time last season, he does have an ERA that's north of a 4.5. So that is something that you do want to take caution of, but he's been pretty rock solid to begin the season. 3.43 ERA, albeit that comes with a fielding independent that's north of a 4.5, but he has been able to do a nice job in terms of being able to limit the hard contact, giving up just 2 home runs in 21 innings thus far this season, and he is backed up by a bullpen that I think is one of the better ones in the big leagues. Jojo Romero along with Ryan Helsley are a really good 8th and 9th inning duo. Now, if you look at the Cardinals overall for the season, their bullpen ERA as a collective, it is more around about 24th in the big leagues because you've had guys like Kyle Leahy, Ryan Fernandez have their rough goes of it to begin the season, but I do think that they're going to be able to pick it up a little bit more there. And then for the Atlanta Braves, this is a bullpen that is relatively solid in their own right. They did let go of AJ Minter in the offseason, but you've got Rossi Iglesias, who's done a nice job holding down the forward. Aaron Bummer has been a little bit up and down, but Dylan Lee has been solid. Anya de los Santos is giving you some good innings. And for the Braves, the offense is finally starting to get online for this team as they bring in Alex Verdugo. He had that 4-hit game on Saturday. Austin Riley is only giving you about a 297 on base, but he's starting to hit for a little bit more power. Marcell Ozuna is actually picking up right where he left off last season. 4 bombs, north of a 450 on base. Ozzy Albies, you tell that you could use a little bit more out of he and Michael Harris, but all in all, it is a Braves team that they're starting to look better offensively. offensively. I do think, though, that Spencer Schwellenbach, though, he's a very good pitcher. I think that he got a little bit overhyped after those first 3 starts of the season. And for Schwellenbach, north of 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, fewer than 2 walks per 9. He gives up about 1 home run per 9 innings. He's a solid pitcher. I don't know if he's necessarily on the echelon of being priced out this highly with a Braves team that's still not full with Ronald Acuna Jr. and a few others currently on the injured list. And I do think that the Cardinals are doing a solid job of being able to put bat to ball with having Alec Burleson give you some night at bats. You've had Brendan Donovan hitting north of a 350 thus far this season. Nolan Arenado is down with regards to power numbers, but still doing a good job of being able to find a way on base himself. You've got the young guys like Victor Scott along with Jordan Walker. Again, not necessarily providing the world's greatest amount of power, but they are doing a solid job of being able to find a way on base. You've also been able to get the young shortstop, who I have a tough time saying his name, but Thomas Sagisi, who's been able to do a really good job of being able to find a way on as well. So I do think that the Cardinals have enough firepower to help out Eric Fetty in this spot. I believe that this number has just gone a little bit too far. I did set my total at an 8.1, so seeing the 8.5 out there, I'm in on the under. I do like the Cardinals at a plus 150 or higher on the money line, 957, 958 on the card. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road. They're facing off against the San Francisco Giants. Robbie Ray says hip hip hooray to another start, and Quentin Pricer is on the bump for the Brewers. The Brewers do find themselves anywhere between plus 124 to a plus 130 underdog, and between minus 140 to minus 148. That number on the Giants, it is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. I did set my total 7.8. I'm going to be in on the under. Quentin Pricer in his first 2 starts with the Brewers, he has been very rock solid, giving up 1 run across 10 innings, and I think that there's reason for encouragement from his first 2 seasons with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He just flat out wasn't ready for the big leagues. He didn't necessarily get the coaching that he should have coming up, and I felt like they just did him wrong in that organization. The Brewers, they do a much better job of being able to handle their pitchers, and I do think that he's a big beneficiary. Now, I don't think he's as good as a 0.90 ERA would indicate. Fielding independence right now, 4.22. He has still given up 5 walks in these first 10 innings, so I do have a little bit of nervousness there. He's getting more swings and misses than he did with Pittsburgh, but he's still not like some sort of a strikeout artist, and Robbie Ray is a strikeout artist. Don't get it twisted. He has been, throughout his career, able to get 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. That said, this is a guy that's also a walks artist, as he's giving up 7 walks per 9 innings as far this season. I mean, he's pretty much the living epitome of Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn. You don't know what he's going to be able to throw, and he doesn't know what he's going to be throwing either. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's awful, but that said, for the San Francisco Giants, they do back him up with a relatively solid bullpen and a very pitcher-friendly ballpark as well, so that's going to be able to help him out quite a bit, as I do like the fact that you've been able to have Tyler Rogers be able to step up in this bullpen. You've been able to have a few other guys like an Eric Miller, Ryan Walker be able to give you some good innings, other than yesterday for Ryan Walker. He pooped the bed in that game against the LA Angels, but still, Lou Trevino's coming. He's held down the fort end for the Milwaukee Brewers. If you look at their bullpen ERA this season, it's in the bottom 6 in all of baseball, but this team was number 1 in the National League with that regard. There's still residual effects of the effect that they had that rough series out there in New York to begin the season, and I do believe that these guys are much better than what they've shown. Likes of Jared Koenig, Joel Payamps, Elvis Figueroa, they had a sub-3.5 ERA in the bullpen last season. Brian Hudson as well, and you've been able to get some good production of Abner Uribe as well. And for the Brewers, they've got a lot of guys that are doing a nice job of being able to move the line, get on base. The power numbers are neither here nor there. You've got Jackson Chourio give you 5 home runs as far this season, but Sal Frelick, Bryce Terang are both hitting above a 300. You've been able to get quite a bit out of Rhys Hoskins in terms of moving the line, giving you 3 home runs. He had a rough start to the season, but he's back online. Now, the likes of Oliver Dunn, Vinny Capra, some of these random infielders have had a little bit of a rough go of it, but you're able to see the same thing for the San Francisco Giants as well, as you've had Matt Chapman along with Willie Adames, who was, ironically enough, the former Milwaukee Brewer, have a little bit of a rough go of it, but how about Jung-Ho Lee? Jung-Ho Lee is up to 3 home runs, give you a 390 on base. He has been a tremendous addition coming over from the KBO, and in the defense of Matt Chapman, 4 home runs, only a 240 average, but up to a 400 on base. Probably undersold him a little bit. Mike Yastrzemski has been able to give you 400 on base as well. And Tyler Fitzgerald, not necessarily hitting for as much power as we saw during the summer months last season, but he's doing a good job being able to move the line as well. But again, very pitcher-friendly ballpark. I think that Robbie Ray is going to be able to keep the Brewers off balance. He might be off balance himself, but I do think that the Giants have what it takes to be able to get your price here and get the job done in what I think is going to be a low-scoring game in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. So my total is 7.8. I like the under, and I do like the Giants on the money line. Set them at minus 142. 9-9, 9-10 on the betting board. The Boston Red Sox are going to be playing us to the Chicago White Sox. The Cannon, Jonathan Cannon, is on the bump for the Southsiders, and Walker Buehler is on the bump for the Red Sox. And the Red Sox find themselves as very heavy favorites here. You're going to be getting them between minus 280 to minus 305, plus 240 to plus 254. That number on the White Sox, if you're looking to lay the run line with Boston, that's anywhere between minus 130 to minus 135, and total is 9. Over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to minus 115. Semi-total at an 8.9, so here at the 9, I'm going to be willing to dive in on the under for Walker Buehler. First 2 starts of the season, he allowed 9 runs and did not look like the guy that we saw in the postseason last year. The last 2 starts, so a little bit north of 11 innings, has given up just 3 runs, so he's starting to be able to find that good form once again. Swing and miss stuff isn't quite where it was when he was at his peak with the LA Dodgers. I don't know if it's ever going to be able to return, but he has looked quite a bit better recently. And then on the Chicago White Sox side of things, going into yesterday, they were averaging less than 2.5 runs per game away from home. So that's a little bit less than tremendous, to say the least. They do get back Andrew Benintendi. That's going to help out the offense a little bit. And Andrew Vaughn has been able to give you some relatively good at-bats this season, but you just don't have guys that are able to consistently move the line and get on base. Right now for the Chicago White Sox, among players with at least 30 at-bats thus far this season, I don't think that you've got a single guy right now that has been able to give you north of a 290 on base other than Matt Thayes, along with London Sosa. London Sosa is up to a 301 on base, and Thayes has seen, I believe, 35 at-bats. He's honestly been able to give you a little bit of something, but this is a bunch that they have been able to hit 16 home runs in their first 21 games of the season. That's a little bit less than tremendous. They have a complete and utter power outage. Someone like a Brooks Baldwin is able to give you a little bit of something along with Nick Baton, but I mean, man, it is really rough with this team. They've gambled on some veterans that have not paid off. And for the Boston Red Sox, it's been a little bit up and down with their offense as well. You've got Trevor Story, who's been able to give you 5 home runs, north of a 300 batting average. Rafael Devers, after that first week and a half or so of the season, he's been able to pick it up a little bit. And I will say, Alex Bregman is traditionally a slow starter. 4 home runs, 360 on base. That's been solid, but Jarren Duran has had his issues. The guys at the bottom of the fold, like Ceddanne Rafaela, Tristan Casas, you need a bit more there. And for the Red Sox, this has been a bullpen that hasn't really knocked my socks off. When you've got Aroldis Chapman as your closer, I always am going to have question marks there. Josh Winkowski has actually been a really good long reliever for them, and Brandon Bernardino give you some good innings along Garrett Woodlock, but that said, Justin Slayton has been rough for the team. Greg Weissert has been a bit all over the place as well, but with the Chicago White Sox, this is just a rough organization in general. Good news is Jonathan Cannon is getting his strikeout stuff going from 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings last year. He's up to more like 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings this season, but I do think that with the lack of offense around him, the Red Sox are going to be able to go out there, win this game by multiple runs in what is going to be a very early first pitch time, by the way. This game starts at 11:10 a.m. Eastern time. If I'm not mistaken, this is like the Boston Marathon game. I might be mistaken here because I don't know when the Boston Marathon is, but I always know that there's a very early game for it, and I feel like this is the one. So I did set the Red Sox at a minus 142 on the run line. Looking there, and I'm going to be in on the underside. I told it at 8.9, 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The New York Yankees are going to be on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Kevin Williams is on the bump for the Gardos, and you got Clark Schmidt going for the Yankees. The Yankees are anywhere between minus 116 to minus 120 favorites, and between even money to plus 107. That number on Cleveland, 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And with Cleveland, I did make them a minus 103 favorite, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line with Gavin Williams. He's been able to do a nice job of being able to get swings and misses, keep the ball in the yard. It's just been a little bit of a walks issue for him. If you look at what Williams did a season ago, he was one of the more unlucky pitchers in all of baseball. Posted up a 4.86 ERA, but just a 3.67 fielding independent for his career. He's given up just 0.9 home runs per 9 innings with 9 strikeouts per 9. The 4 walks per 9, again, a little bit rough, but he has been a better pitcher than what the raw ERA would indicate. And then on the flip side, you got a guy in Clark Schmidt who I believe that he's just very meh. He's not a guy that's going to wow you. He's not a guy that's like going to be a complete bum or anything like that. He's a pretty league average pitcher, and last season was a very rock solid year for him with a 2.85 ERA, but he had more like a 3.58 fielding independent for his career, 3.96 ERA, 4.6 fielding independent for his career, 8.5 strikeouts, 3 walks per 9 innings. Like, those are very league average numbers, and he's backed up by a bullpen that is pretty solid with Luke Weaver giving you some good innings. Brent Hendrick has actually been really good in the bullpen. I think that the Yankees are starting to figure out what I figured out, the fact that Devin Williams could sometimes be a little bit less than savory, but overall, I do think that there is quite a bit of upside with regards to some of the younger guys in that bullpen, like an Ian Ambleton, in terms of being able to supply some good innings. And for the Cleveland Guardians, Manuel Clase has just been a mess thus far this season, so that's something that they do need to clean up. And again, I just am not necessarily bullish on Paul Sewald. I didn't think that that was the world's greatest acquisition. Honestly, I would be rather giving someone like an Eric Sabrowski some innings right now, personally, if he's up and running and if he's all healthy. But Jacob Junis, Tim Aaron, Kate Smith, these guys have been able to supply you with a sub 225 ERA I do actually like what Joey Cantillo's been able to provide in the bullpen as well. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this is a bunch that has a really good leadoff hitter. It's Stephen Kwan, giving you 385 on base, 4 home runs this season. Gabriel Urias, Jose Ramirez, they're both at 4 bombs as well. Both of these guys right around 333 on base. Ramirez has been a little bit up and down over the last few weeks, but you've got Kyle Manzardo, not giving you a lot of average, but he's hitting for 6 home runs. The bottom lineup with the likes of Nolan Jones, John Kenzie Noel, Lane Thomas, Bo Naylor, they need to pick it up quite a bit, but the top end is pretty solid. For the New York Yankees, they clearly do have the better lineup here. Ben Rice has been able to give you like a 400 on base with 4+ bombs. You've had Anthony Volpe go into a little bit of a slump after that first week or so of the season, but you know that he's going to be able to pick it up. Aaron Judge, 7 home runs. He's right now belting out north of a 475 on base. And even with Cody Bellinger doing a big giant nothing burger and John Carlos Same being on the injured list, you still have had Paul Goldschmidt give you north of a 4 on base, albeit Goldschmidt not necessarily hitting for a bunch of homers, but these guys are finding a way to be able to get on base. Trent Grisham, 6 home runs in 50 at-bats himself, so it's a very interesting scenario here. I did set my total at 8.3. It's just very hard to be able to drive the ball out of Cleveland this time of year, and for the New York Yankees, they have seen quite a bit of a dip with their offense away from home rather than at home. 6.5 runs per game in Yankee Stadium, more like 4.5 on the road, so looking at the under, and I do like the Guardians on the money line, made them a -103 favorite. 913, 914 on the card. The Houston Astros play host the Toronto Blue Jays. Kevin Gausman is on the bump for the Jays, and Hunter Brown is on the bump for Houston. Houston is a favorite of anywhere between -134 to a -142, and between +120 to +125 is that number on Toronto. 7.5 is the total. Under is between -110 to a -115. Over is between -105 to a -110. And with Houston, I did set them at a -142. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line. Recognize that they're coming off of Sunday Night Baseball. That said, with this Houston bunch, I do believe that they're going to be able to get good performances moving forward out of Hunter Brown. Now, for Brown, he's actually been a little bit less effective when he's been at home rather than away from home. For some reason, his command goes a little bit funky. Now, it is a guy that has just been able to get better and better with every single year that he's been at the big league level. Last year, he had a really nice second half of the campaign, was getting 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and this season, boy, has he been good. In his 4 starts, .50 ERA, he's given up just 1 home run over the course of 24 innings, has really been able to work on those walks issues as well. 5 walks in 4 starts across 24 innings, so that has me very impressed. And for Kevin Gausman, the swing and miss stuff is really starting to elude him, as Gausman, for the longest time, was always a 10+ strikeout per 9 inning guy. This season, he's went 25 1/3 innings with only 20 punch-outs. Now, the command is tremendous. He's only given up 3 walks in 4 starts thus far this season, but he's also given up a home run and a half per 9 innings. The 2.49 ERA is backed up by a 3.85 fielding independent, and for Houston, they do need to find a way to be able to get online with their bats. As Jose Altuve has been rock solid. He's been able to give you 3+ home runs. He's doing a nice job finding a way to be able to get on base, and for the Astros, year in and year out, they're one of the best teams and not striking out in all of baseball. But that said, you just need to get a little bit more out of some of these guys at the bottom of the lineup, as you just haven't been able to get anything out of Mauricio Dubon, who's hitting for less than a 275 on base. Some of these young guys like Chas McCormick, Jack DeZenzo have not been able to really materialize. And then you've had Christian Walker be a little bit rough to begin the season as well. 253 on base without a lot of power. Isaac Paredes up 350 on base, and Yordan Alvarez been a little bit of a slump for him. Meanwhile, you've got, on the flip side, a Blue Jays team that is getting a lot out of George Springer, who's up to north of a 340 batting average. He's not necessarily hitting a supreme amount of homers, and neither is Bo Bichette, but both these guys just finding a way on base is big. Vlad Guerrero Jr. has been in a little bit of a power outage, but he's still giving you north of a 350 on base. Will Wagner has had his ups and downs recently, but he's someone that I'm very bullish on. I believe that he was part of that Yusei Kikuchi trade, and you've had Andres Gimenez be able to hit up for a little bit of power, but not necessarily a lot of average. Anthony Santander, you need him to be able to get online as well, and I'm confident that he's going to be able to do so. And for the Blue Jays, this is a solid bullpen. I don't think that it's going to be like a top 5 bullpen or anything like that, especially with Nick Sandlin on the injured list along with Eric Swanson, but Chad Green, Yimi Garcia, Jeff Hoffman, that's a very good, fearsome threesome. Now, outside of that, what you're going to be able to get out of Mason Flew-Hardy and guys like that, that's a little bit of a roll of the dice, and you're able to say the same thing for the Houston Astros. Seems as though Stephen Okert is now back in the bullpen, so that's going to be able to help them out moving forward. But Taylor Scott, after he was so good last season, he's been rough. Now, the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, both of these guys had a sub-3.5 ERA a season ago. Josh Hader is back to being his normal self. I think that that'll be just enough to be able to get the job done in this ordeal. Set the Astros at a -142, like them on the money line, and you're at a 7.5. I'm going to be able to take a shot on the over. Did set my total line at 8.1, and we have things up with 9:15, 9:16 on the card. The Detroit Tigers play us to the San Diego Padres. Randy Vasquez is on the bump for the Padres, and Guillermo Montero is on the bump for the Tigers. Tigers between -125 to -130 favorites, +110 to +115, that number on San Diego. 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8, over is minus 115, the under is minus 105 on the 8.5, under is minus 120, and the over is even. And with the Pods, I set them as a minus 111 favorite. Recognize that they're coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, but I'm willing to take a shot on the money line. This is just a big giant fade of Mr. Montero. He made his first start of the season against the Milwaukee Brewers a few days ago, and well, he gave up 5 runs, including 3 homers over the course of 5 innings. Not necessarily where you want to be there after last season. He posted up right around about a 4.75 ERA, north of a 5 fielding independent, giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, so very much less than savory there. And then on the flip side, you've got Randy Vasquez. Is not going to light up the radar gun. He's getting 3.5 strikeouts to 6.1 walks per 9 innings, and yet has a 1.74 ERA. His fielding independent is more than 2.5 times what his ERA is, so that's going to be going northward. But for the Padres, they back him up with the best bullpen in all of baseball. Going into Sunday Night Baseball, a $1.65 ERA. Now, they did have to use up a few guys like Robert Suarez, Jason Adam and company, but you've got enough guys that should be able to return in this game that are going to be rock solid, that are going to be able to provide for you. Yuki Matsui has been solid in this bullpen. You've also been able to have Alec Jacob come in and hold down the fort. He threw an inning or so yesterday, and Jeremiah Estrada is another guy that you're able to get good production from. And for the San Diego Padres lineup, it is one of the better ones that you're going to find in all of baseball, with Fernando Tatis Jr. really having a remarkable year thus far. North of 400 on base, 8 home runs. He had the home run that was the difference maker yesterday. Xander Bogaerts is on 0 bombs, but he's giving you about a 3.55 on base. They are dealing with a little bit of an injury to Jackson Merrill, which hurts them, and Luis Ariz have to figure that he's out of the fold after what we saw yesterday, so that's rough to see. But that said, even without him, you still have someone like Gavin Sheets that's able to fill in for him. Jose Iglesias, he's a rock solid bat that's not going to give you a ton of power, but is able to move the line as well. And for the Detroit Tigers, this is a much improved lineup from 8 seasons ago. You've got a guy in Spencer Torkelson who's been able to give you north of a 3.75 on base. He's hitting for quite a bit of power right now, as he's up to 7 home runs this season. Riley Green has been a little bit intermittent to begin the season, but he's starting to be able to give you a little bit more in terms of power department. 3 home runs, needs work on that 270 on base. Trey Sweeney is getting better as the days are going along. Kerry Carpenter back up to above a 300 with regards to his average. 5 home runs, love to see that. And getting Gleyber Torres back in the fold, that's big after he spent some time on the injury list. Ryan Kreidler, guys like this. You've got a few rough ones in the lineup, but overall it is getting a little bit better. But out there in Detroit this time of year, it is hard to be able to drive the ball out. Did somebody total at 80.2, like the under, and I do like the Padres on the money line. Set them at a minus 111, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bets Show for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able for those in. First one is my Twitter / X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to on this podcast, find that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.